Hello and hi, welcome to the Fortinus Events Global Podcast Series, where we bring together exceptional leaders who are shaping the future of finance, operations, and business transformation across the world. I'm your host Rashika, and today we are joined by Raja Muhammad Shahadan Raja Mohammed, the Chief Financial Officer at INCEIF University, a highly respected finance leader with extensive experience spanning internal audit, finance, banking supervision, governance, and public sector advocacy. So, Raja, it's a pleasure to have you with us
Mm,
today. To start off, could you please briefly introduce yourself and share more about your professional journey and your career?
Sure, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Raja Shahadan, currently serving as the Chief Financial Officer of INCEIF University, an institution established by the Central Bank of Malaysia. So, particularly for advancing Islamic finance knowledge and leadership. So, I'm also proud advocate of the accounting profession, particularly within the public sector domain, where I strongly believe financial professionals play a critical role in strengthening governance, advancing accountability, and contributing to nation building.
Okay, perfect. So now, thank you so much, Raja, for the brief introduction. Now let's jump into our conversation.
Sure.
So first thing first, you have had a distinguished career spanning internal audit, finance, and banking supervision, like I mentioned. So now you lead the finance at INCEIF,
Yes.
an institution established by BNM itself. So now, how has that regulatory and central banking background shaped the way you approach the CFO role in an academic setting?
Thank you. That's very interesting questions. My journey across internal audit, financial management, supervision taught me one fundamental principle. That is, finance is ultimately about trust. I think that is key. So whether you are supervising financial institutions, safeguarding public interest, or even managing the public funds or stewarding an academic institution like I am right now, so credibility is really our true currency. So coming from a regulatory central banking environment, I was trained to think beyond short-term mandates or short-term numbers. So you learn to assess resilience, proper governance, sustainability, and also most importantly, systemic impact on every decision that we do. So that perspective has, in a way, shaped the way I approach my role at the moment. I do not see finance merely as a reporting or control function. That's very important. So I see it as a strategic enabler for institutional purpose. So in an academic institution, especially one with a global mandate in Islamic finance for ECF right now, finance leadership must balance commercial sustainability with intellectual and societal impact. So that is our mandate. So every financial decision, my role by right has to make sure that every financial decision should strengthen our ability to develop talent, to produce meaningful research, and contribute to the advancement of the Islamic finance ecosystem globally, on top of making sure just the financial sustainability of that organization. So, in a way, my regulatory background instilled and instituted a strong appreciation for governance and ethical leadership. So, in today's environment, I strongly believe that institution cannot afford to separate performance from integrity. It is intertwined. Sustainable growth only happens when discipline, transparency, and accountability are deeply embedded into the culture. And ultimately, I believe the modern CFO must evolve from being just a scorekeeper or traditional way of being a financial gatekeeper to becoming a strategic architect, someone who helps shape the future direction of the institution or organization while preserving its value and long-term credibility. So that's my take on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's nice. That's a good response, Treasure. So thank you so much. Okay, now so moving on to the next question. Now, ECF sits at the heart of Islamic finance education globally. From your vantage point as a CFO, how do you see Islamic finance evolving as a credible and competitive framework for institutions and economics beyond the Muslim world?
Thank you. Thank you for this question. I think this question is very important because it gives me a chance to at least explain a little
Mhm.
bit about Islamic finance, right? So I believe Islamic finance is no longer operating at the periphery of the global financial system. It's not an afterthought anymore, right? Increasingly, it is being recognized for what it truly represents. What is it? It's particularly an ethical, resilient, and value-based financial framework. So that is key. So what makes Islamic finance compelling
Mhm.
today is not merely its religious foundation, to say the least, but the universality of its principles. Concepts such as risk sharing, responsible financing, asset-backed transaction, all this um, resonate strongly in a world searching for a more sustainable and inclusive economic model. So we are witnessing global conversation around ESGs, SDGs, perhaps maybe MSGs. That always we always joke about it. You know, uh, but about this ethical investing, interestingly, many of these themes have long been embedded within Islamic finance principle. So that creates a tremendous opportunity for Islamic finance
Mhm.
to contribute meaningfully beyond Muslim majority markets. So from my perspective, the next phase of growth for Islamic finance will depend on three things. The first, particularly talent. The industry needs professionals who are not only technically competent but also globally minded and digitally adaptive. That is very important to meet the current demand. And second, innovation. Islamic finance must evolve beyond replication and become more solution oriented in addressing modern economic challenges. Because at the end of the day, we want to serve real economy. And third, credibility. We must continue to strengthening governance, standardization, and market confidence so that we can push further the next boundary and the next frontier for Islamic finance. So at ACF, we are in a unique position because we are not merely educating students, we are shaping future industry leaders, policymakers, researchers who will define the next chapter of Islamic finance globally. So I strongly believe that the future of Islamic finance lies not in positioning itself as an alternative system for Muslims alone, but as a globally relevant framework for ethical and sustainable finance for all or for the world.
Mhm. Mm. All right. Thank you so much for the strong advocate,
Thank
Raja.
you.
So that's a great one. Yeah. Okay, so next question is, so in the year 2024, you were recognized as the ACCA Malaysia Public Sector Advocate of the Year. So that's a significant honor for you. So what does it mean to be a genuine advocate for public sector finance? And what do you think the sector finance leadership in Malaysia has room to grow?
Right, thank you. So first of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank SCCA for that for such recognition. For me, receiving the SCCA Public Sector Advocate recognition was deeply meaningful to me because public sector finance has always been about something bigger than finance itself. It's about nation building, public
Mm.
trust, and creating impact that improve lives. It touches the people on the ground. So for me, being a genuine advocate means actively investing in the future of the profession, particularly in the space of public sector. So mentoring young talent, strengthening professional standards, and helping people see that public sector finance is not merely an administrative work. So it is a strategic work with national significance. So that is important. So too often the public sector is viewed through a narrow lens focused on compliance and bureaucracy. But the reality is that the public sector manages some of the country's most critical priorities. They manage education, healthcare, economic development, infrastructure, social well-being, among others, right? So that requires highly capable finance leadership. So I believe Malaysia has tremendous potential to elevate
Mm.
public sector finance further, particularly in three areas. First, about mindset transformation. So finance teams, particularly in the public sector, must evolve from transactional operators into strategic business partners that influence policy, resource optimization, and long term value creation. Second, in terms of the capacity building, the future public sector finance leader must combine technical excellence with digital fluency, commercial understanding, strategic communication, and of course, most importantly, leadership capability. And third, in terms of the talent attraction, so this is where I strongly advocate. So we need to reposition public sector finance as a meaningful and prestigious career path where professionals can contribute directly to national development while building world-class expertise. This is one reason why I remain passionate about advocacy and mentoring. So I came myself from a very humble background, and I know how transformative professional opportunities can be. So if we can develop more purpose-driven finance leaders with integrity and competence, so the impact on the nation can be very profound.
Understand. Okay, well, we are at it, right? So I want to ask, what's that one thing that that shape you and get you to be recognized as the advocate for the award that you um got last time?
That's mainly in the space of the work that I do, because uh, we realize that many of the professionals, especially accounting profession, right, they prefer to go to a public practice, to the big four uh, audit firms like PwC, KPMG,
Mm.
EY, and the likes, right?
Mm.
And many of these young talents, especially accountants, they wanted to go for that route and become partners of that firm, or most of them will go to a or private organization. And we see less and less accountants actually moving into public domain. So that is pretty much why, since I'm with the central bank, and then I used to work in the finance department, and develop an ecosystem, and then have the network across the public sector domain as well. So we see the importance of making sure that the the brightest talent, and the professional accountants must also be actively involved in the public sector domain as well, because these are the heart of the nation, right? So we want the best of talents to go into managing our country. So that is pretty much the reason of the real spirit of this advocacy, together with my other colleagues.
Mm, understand, but I think with your strong background, right, that's what make you stand out than the others. That's what truly
Thank
is.
you.
Okay, thank you so much for the response, Raja. So now move on to the next one. Okay, you hold fellowships across ACCA, MIA, MICPA, Asian CPA, and the Institute of Internal Auditors. That's a truly wonderful, comprehensive set of credentials. So, in an era where experience often get prioritized over qualifications, how do you see professional credentials shaping the credibility and career trajectory of finance leaders today?
All right, thanks for the question. I often get this question a lot, because um, many people will say that my name is long, but the credential is longer than my name, right? But in all seriousness, I seriously think that experience is extremely important. But I do not believe experience and professional qualifications
Mm.
should be viewed as competing forces, uh, because the strongest finance leaders combine both. The balance of both is very important. So professional qualification provides something very important to me.
Yeah.
They establish credibility, discipline, and professional standards, right? So they signal that an individual has undergone rigorous training, adheres to ethical principles, and possesses a strong technical foundation. So, in the world where finance is becoming increasingly complex, multidisciplinary, and now globally connected, credentials also create trust. So, at the end of the day, remember when we first talk, we talk about trust, right? So, when stakeholders engage with finance leaders, so they want confidence that decisions are grounded in competence, governance, and professional integrity. So this is non-negotiable. So that said, qualifications alone are never enough. A designation may open the door, but leadership capability determines
Mm.
how far you go. So today's finance leaders must evolve, must move beyond technical expertise into areas such as strategy, transformation, communication, and now, of course, technology. We cannot run away from that, right? Sustainability, and most importantly, stakeholders management. So I often tell young professionals that qualifications are not the finish line, they are the foundation. So continuous learning is what truly differentiates future-ready leaders. So personally, pursuing multiple professional pathways across accounting, internal audit, and finance give me broader perspectives and adaptability. So it allowed me to navigate different industries and leadership environments with greater confidence. And ultimately, that future belongs um, to finance leaders who combine technical credibility with strategic influence and humane leadership. So for me, that is very important.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Okay, just one short question. How long does it take for you to, to complete all the credentials that you have today?
Uh, yes. So after completing my degree, I right away continue with my SSCA qualification. So it took about 2 years and a half, and then the rest
Mm-hmm.
follow automatically.
Mm-hmm. Okay, understand. All right. Okay, I get it now. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so move on with the next one, Raja. So, with a career rooted in audit, compliance, and central banking supervision, integrity is clearly non negotiable for you. So, for the next generation of finance leaders, many of whom will face pressure to prioritize results over principles. So, what would your advice be on holding that line without compromising your career?
Thank you. This is very important and very serious question and topic. So integrity. So you are right. Integrity is non-negotiable. So I believe integrity is the ultimate long-term strategy. So in the short term, compromising principles may sometimes appear rewarding, but over time, reputation becomes your most valuable asset. And once credibility is damaged, it is incredibly difficult to rebuild that reputation. No one is gone, it is very hard. Uh, so
Mm.
my advice to the next generation is this: no, never separate professional success from personal values. So sustainable leadership is built on both competence and character. People often forget about the character part, right? So our one lesson I learned from audit and regulatory environment is that small compromises rarely remain small. Ethical failures often begin with small rationalization. Some people will say it's okay, just this once, right? And then some will say that why don't we do it? Everyone does it. So that is just a small
Mm.
rationalization that allows um, that allows the integrity line to be broken. So that is why integrity must be non-negotiable, especially when it is inconvenient. So at the same time, integrity does not mean being rigid or disconnected from business realities. This is also important. We have to shift our mindset. Strong finance leaders must still drive performance, must still drive innovation and growth. But the key is learning how to deliver results within the boundaries of sound governance and ethical leadership. I also encourage young professionals to build courage early in their careers. Courage is like a muscle, right? The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. So speak up respectfully, ask difficult questions,
Mm.
surround yourself with mentors and leaders who value ethics over shortcuts or immediate success. So most importantly, remember that leadership is not defined by position alone. So leadership is reflected in their decisions who make when no one is watching. So in the end, people may remember your
Mm.
achievement, but they will trust you because of your integrity. Right? So this is um, your, I would say, uh, your your uh, I would say it is capital. Your capital as you move along in the industry, your identity capital.
Mm, understand? Yeah, I get it. Because I think for me, for myself, I think with that integrity left with you and or let's say you just lost the integrity, even with just a small one, it will tarnish all your reputation that you built all this while.
That's right. That's right.
Correct.
And the moment
So
is tarnished is
by all
is
means,
very hard.
just keep it.
It's very hard to build it back. Yeah.
Yes, I don't think that is revisable. Revisable. Do you think? we can reverse that,
It's
or
very hard.
it takes time?
It may take time, but as we always say, in a white sheet of paper, the moment you have a black dot on it, people will always see the black dot on it.
That's a wonderful conversation I have with you, Raja. So thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your valuable insights on leadership, integrity, governance, and the future of finance. So everyone, we're excited to share that Raja Mohamad Shahadan will be joining the CFO and Finance Leaders Summit Malaysia 2026 as the chairperson of the summit and also a moderator for the panel discussion Cash is King 2.0. Sorry.
Yes.
So, Raja, do you have anything else to say before we end the discussion?
All right. So thank you again for having me on this meaningful conversation. So I firmly believe the future of finance leadership must go beyond profitability alone. So the next generation of CFOs and finance leaders will be measured not only by financial performance, but by their ability to lead with integrity, build trust, and create sustainable impact and inspire people through purpose driven leadership. So, as financial professionals, we are entrusted with more than
Mm.
numbers. We are entrusted with stewardship, accountability, and the responsibility to shape stronger institutions and better societies. So, I look forward to continuing these important conversations with fellow CFOs and finance leaders at the CFO and Finance Leaders Summit 2026. So, see you all there.
Thank you so much, Raja Shahadan. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and see you guys in the next episode and see you at the summit. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.